Ready to go.
All righty.
All set.
All right. I call this Topsham Board of Selectmen meeting to order on March 18th, 2021. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it formed, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Patty, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. David Douglas,
I am here.
Marie Brilliant,
Here.
Ruth Lyons,
Here.
Matt Nixon.
Here.
And Roland Tufts, I understand, is excused, so all present except for Mr. Tufts.
Thank you, Patty. Town Manager's report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I announced this a couple days ago, but I'll announce it again to the public. The U.S. House of Representatives passed the American Rescue Plan. Maine's total expected allotment is $233 million, and Topsham's share is $890,000. Municipalities, through their municipal legislative bodies, may choose to use these funds to respond to the coronavirus health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including establishing programs to assist households, small businesses, nonprofits, or to assist impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. These funds may also be used to replace lost municipal revenue and make necessary investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. We are waiting for federal rules and directives on access and use of funds, and as soon as that information comes out, we'll make all of you aware. Some news from our town departments. Our Public Works Department received a new plow truck this week and will be in operation soon. Myself and the Assistant Town Manager went down the other day to take a look, and it's a pretty impressive truck. Like our Public Works Director relayed when he asked for this in last year's budget. It is a smaller version of what we have, but it appears to be much more capable and a solid vehicle. The town's newly designed website will go live by April 1st. The website will feature many improvements and provide easier access to information. And from the Parks and Rec Director, please visit the rec page for more information or register for spring programs. They're filling up fast. And lastly, last night, the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee met to reconcile the proposed fiscal year 22 town budget that will be presented at a public hearing on April 15th. I would like to personally thank all of our town department heads, the Finance Committee, and the Board of Selectmen for their time, your time, and dedication to next year's proposed budget. Thank you and have a good night.
Any questions of the manager? I'm going to echo what the town manager had said, and I am extremely happy and very proud with the budget process that we just went through. And I'm even more happy and more proud when I watch our surrounding communities, who are council form of governments, come in with 7% budget increases. It's good to know that the hard work that's been done here in Topsham. We actually expect a decrease in our net commitment of about $280,000. And this is all very preliminary because we're waiting for finalization from the county and we're waiting for school board, but very preliminary numbers. We expect that net commitment to drop. And our mill rate to go down from 1786 to 1747, which is about a 2.2% decrease. All the while, we've been able to continue to take on projects of increasing our road maintenance budget. And even the Elm Street Culvert project, those two things combined are $1.3 million out of our budget. And we're still able, I believe we will be able to deliver a lower mill rate and a decrease in actual net commitment. So everyone did an outstanding job. You know, everyone's work, people were prepared, they looked at it, they thoughtful questions, and I couldn't be more happy, honestly.
I'd like to echo that, Dave, too. I just feel that the town manager presented a budget that and worked with the staff to present a budget that they felt the board would be amenable to. And I think everybody did a great job, the staff, the town manager, and of course, the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Boards, committees, reports, and updates. We have tonight, update from TDI ECD Director John Shattuck, Topsham Economic and Community Development, Inc. Director.
Good evening, and I even managed to get connected, which is a little interesting this evening. Couple of things tonight. We are had further discussions with Matt Yausch, who's an Air Force veteran, a Topsham resident, who's conducting business-related, looking to conduct a business-related research project for the town in connection with his graduate degree in municipal administration. Matt contacted Derek, and Derek passed him along to me, and we've been discussing how we can put together a research project that works for Matt and also serves the town. I think it's a great opportunity to look at some work that will align well with the FY22 strategy for economic development in the town. And his project would be conducted during his summer term, June through August of this year. The Wicked Joe CDBG EDP grant, which the town has, they've asked for a second drawdown on that $500,000 grant. The town, McCad, and Wicked Joe will be meeting this coming Monday to discuss that and review the project as part of that drawdown process. And finally, I'm pleased to, well, not finally, but I'm pleased to report that the Cadence River Education Lounge, CREA, has had good news from Highland Green. They've been supportive of the reopening of the summer camp and pent up demand much, I guess. Their registration, which has only been open for about a week at this point, I believe, is almost 100% filled. So marvelous support for CREA. And finally, the affordable housing TIF that has been discussed at the last few select board meetings, in which the selectmen authorized us to go ahead and work to get this posited to be able to be heard for the town meeting this spring. As of this week, as of last week, we spent time aggregating the information needed from the school district, from the Topsham Housing Authority, our council, town departments, and the like. That's been completed and was sent up to the Maine State Housing Authority last Friday. And we are getting feedback. We have already received feedback for them. Final version of that application package will be available at the town office, and I assume also on the website for review to concur with tomorrow's publication of the notice of the hearing on the TIF in 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, on the 1st of April, Thursday. So that's ready to go, and will be followed by the selectmen's hearing on their warrant 2 weeks later on the 15th to make a final decision as to whether that proceeds to the town meeting. And that's it. Thanks.
Any questions of John?
I have one question, or two questions, actually. John, in your report, you had mentioned that you had narrowed down finalists for the CPICS RFP. How many responses did you guys have? Do you know?
Rod can certainly talk to this in more detail, but I was a small part of it. I'm not part of the interview panel, but I was part of the original call on Monday a week ago. It was, I believe there were 5 or 6 applications. It was a strong showing, which was very pleasing under current circumstances. And while there's always an effort on planning to use the planning department or any of our departments to use some of the email groups, listservs to make sure that this is known locally, we had 4 of these applications came from out of state, which I found very interesting. And some of them were, again, Rod or Andrew can speak much more knowledgeably than I to this, but are firms of very strong national prominence. So very interesting for us.
Cool.
Do you want me to chime in real quick?
Sure.
Matt, do you want me to chime in real quick?
Sure, Rod, you don't have to ask.
The CPIC will be coming back to the select board in April. First round of interviews has occurred. There may likely be a second round of interview. Very strong applicants, very tough decision-making, and very, again, strong applicants, and we will be back before you.
Cool, thank you. That's good stuff. And then what was my other question? Oh, the project that the gentleman, Mr. Yoke, approached you about. Are you able to share what it is with us, or is it still sort of in development?
It's somewhat in development because it's kind of a three-cornered hat. He has some ideas of what it is he needs to do to demonstrate his mastery of skills that are part of his municipal administration graduate degree. The town has some specific interests in making sure that this is something that aids the town. And as a resident, Matt is interested in seeing that happen too. And third, he has to work with his academic advisor to make sure that this is feasible. So we've been looking at, in alignment with plans to reorient ECD policy in the coming year, getting information from our business community regarding impacts from COVID-19. What are the specific now? And this is very timely because now we're hopeful, at least, that we're coming out of this. And certainly the changes in the protocols at the state level seem to indicate that we're going to have a better summer this year. So we're looking at what specific kinds of support that's feasible and doable for the town that businesses would like to help them in that process. And so we're looking at that. Matt and I talked on Monday. He's going to rough that out into an outline that he'll send to me for me to review with the manager and assistant manager. And we'll take a look at and see if this fits what we want. And his indication from he'll need a final approval from his advisor, but she's already indicated that the general direction he's going in, as just outlined, it works well for her.
Very interesting. Thank you, John.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you, Derek, for sending him my way.
Anything else? Thank you, John. We are on to the correspondence portion. If you would like to call in to during open comment, the phone number is 373-5090. We'll also watch the hand selection here within Zoom. I don't see any attendees, so I don't think anyone's going to chime in. Ruth and Matt, this is probably a good spot if you guys had anything. I know there's been a little bit of talk with the county budget where you guys have had some early meetings. Is there anything to report? Ruth?
No, it was a good meeting and the budget is actually going down. I think they were, as well as this town, were very diligent and putting that budget together, and they have saved us some money for various reasons in the budget. Communications is a big one. That's where you're going to see the rise, but overall the budget's going down. We're thankful for that. I don't know if Matt has anything to add to that, but
Oh, before I say that, in terms of communication, Dave, I did go for a walk with two members of the Conservation Commission this past week out behind my house on state land. They were looking at some paper street stuff. So just so everyone's aware, it was a very nice day. So let's see. I had a couple of thoughts. Like I think Ruth touched on most of the big issues, or most of the big, findings. Essentially, it was a good budget. Pam Heil has done a fantastic job from what I understand. This is only my first year dealing with her, but she ran a good meeting. It lasted for 6 hours, but it could have lasted for much longer, I think, or 4 hours, excuse me. Let's see. I think our tax assessment this year went up $53,000 from last year, which is pretty small. We're still the second highest at about $1,882,788. And just looking at past precedent, and Ruth, you might be able to speak to this better than I would, but it kind of looks like we might pass Bath in the coming years here in terms of value and become the top assessed in the county.
That's right. We
Yeah.
could,
If the trends stay the same anyway, it's interesting.
right, right.
So, I mean, even in light of that, our share of the county's payment, essentially our payment to the county only went up. It went up from 20.34 to 20.65, which is pretty tiny, as Ruth said.
Right, yeah.
One other thing Pam had mentioned, or excuse me, the presentation that we had highlighted was a rise in indigent services this year. They had said they had 15 reports in 2020. They've already had 8 in January and February alone, and they're on pace for about 50, 50 as opposed to 15. So that could be interesting next year.
What was it, Matt? I didn't understand.
Indigent service needs, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, the final thing that kind of struck me was the sheriff's, I mean, he was basically, admitting himself that he hates to see his budget at 88% comprised of mainly salaries and wages, and that he was
Sheriff.
taking, number of active steps to
Yeah.
try and reduce that. And I was pretty satisfied with what he had to say. He also said that all our towns had an increase in service demands last year, but that crime stayed pretty flat. I think see that a lot. Aside from that, those are my big takeaways.
I just have to say, we have to be proud of our county government and their department heads also. They did a good presentation and with Pam's guidance, but I think they care about our taxes and about performing good duties with the money they have. That's what I saw. I had correspondence, and the one correspondence I had was about the new coffee shop going in, Aroma Joe's, and it was from Lee Tire to see if they could reposition that sidewalk to if you go on down that road facing Monument Place, if they could put the sidewalk on the left-hand side, it would have a less of an impact. I did go walk it with them, and if it's possible with the Department of Transportation and our road commissioner, it makes all kinds of sense because you're not, and I don't know if you agree with me, Rod, but the way, if they put it by Copper Kettle, there's an angle there in which people would have to cross the street. If you put it on the left side, it's a clearer view for pedestrians to cross, and it doesn't impact anyone's business. So that's what they wanted me to see.
Well, and thanks, Ruth. Yeah, I'm in touch with Peter Lee and Lee as well. They're going to be involved in the final design.
Right.
Putting it across the street offers many more challenges. And I did chat with them about that, but I've assured them we're not going to, and Dave said it at the last meeting, we're going to be sensitive to their needs, but also we have to comply with what's being permitted too. So it's a challenge, but I think we can do it. And I think, I plan to work very closely with them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Matt. There are no phone calls. There are no hands up. We're going to jump right to consent calendar. Approval of the minutes, the regular Selectmen meeting, March 4, 2021. As presented in our packet, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Motioned and seconded. All in favor? 1, 2, there's 4-0. And just like that, we're on to new business. Consideration, any appropriate action to amend the procedure for marijuana business license renewals. I believe, once again, we will have Rod Mellinson coming up and giving us an overview of this. And this is just, I think this is looking to take it to town meeting from the beginning here, I believe, right, Rod?
Oh, yeah, if you folks agree with what I outlined in the memo, I guess something that we didn't really catch when we first put this forth and passed it at the town. The renewal process is as cumbersome as coming to you for a brand new application. I think the amendments are very simple. I think the other piece to this, not unlike a liquor license renewal, is that the staff will conduct a review, will inspect the ongoing business. The safety net is always kicking it up to a public hearing if we feel that. The other thing embedded in the ordinance is that if there's a change, any change to the business structure, to the operating requirements, it automatically comes back for a public hearing. But if it's just a running business that hasn't changed anything and is looking to get renewal, they just pay the fee. And it's a staff review instead of a public hearing, essentially is what this would change.
Rod, I'll let the old curmudgeon come out of me. So one of the things I want to make sure is what do you think as staff would trigger the need for our review? And because I think that's important as time goes on, is people forget why we did what we did or anything like that.
And yeah, the license, I mean, this is a very cumbersome license requirement from my perspective. So I guess if there's complaints about the facility that have been brought to staff or have been brought to the select board. So the select board could say, hey, they're coming up for renewal. You guys could institute the public hearing. The other piece is if we go out and do an inspection on more than an annual basis or on an annual basis when it comes for renewal, and we find that they're not being forthright in their application for renewal, meaning something has changed, then that triggers coming back. In that regard too, I think if we do an inspection and they're not operating the way they said they were operating, then that offers you folks the ability to basically shut them down. They're in violation, the license is revoked. So there's a huge safety net here in this licensing scheme that, as long as we're paying attention, I think there's plenty of ways to make a business compliant.
And I ask that just because I don't want to, this is so new and we've had great applicants so far. And I think these are the people that it's great to have them in place as this builds itself within the town. But I don't want, I'm still mindful of it was like a 50.5 to a 49.5 sort of vote for it to go through. So I don't want that, well, that wasn't that bad of a violation. We're not going to bring it forward to the selectmen mentality. And I just want to make sure as we're going down the road that, all right, there's a violation, there's a complaint, let's do this, let's deal with it. And because eventually it will become, well, that one wasn't that bad. Until we get this more comfort level, I just want to make sure that's stressed that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, one of the reasons I was thinking, if in fact we issue all of the licenses that are available, the burden then gets to you folks on scheduling these things to get in front of you. There's quite a few of them.
So obviously we can't change this until town meeting. We do need to schedule at least one for Sundog then, because didn't we approve them? These are yearly, right? What was the date?
So, and in my memo, we erred on our issuance of a renewal, figuring out, because there's almost two contradictory sections in the license that made us believe it didn't need to go to public hearing. So
okay, that's right.
They did, yes, they should come in and we should do that as a matter of course. Yeah.
Okay. I've got nothing else. Ruth?
My question is, first of all, if it's a new one, if it's a brand new license, would we have a public hearing on it?
Absolutely. That's a requirement.
Okay. That's what I thought. The second thing is, and this is just a comment, and it probably would work just the same if we don't have a public hearing, but a lot of people spoke, and it was a close vote on the referendum, but a lot of people spoke for and against at those public hearings for marijuana and stuff. Would this anyway take this down a little so people don't have the proper notice or whatever for a public hearing for them to speak? I'm not wording it well, but usually a
I
public
think I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they can, say an abutter has complaints about the way someone's operating, they should be complaining anytime. And that then gets put on record, especially for these businesses that need their license to stay in business.
But isn't
What's
a
that?
public hearing noticed for 10 days, something like that, or is it now?
Well, public hearing, there's a requirement to be notified for public hearings. I guess I'm a bit confused on the question. I mean, so the only non-public hearing would be an operating business that has had no issue would basically get their license renewed. It still goes through staff review. So if in fact you folks have heard of complaints or police, fire, codes, that probably would be elevated to public hearing just by staff or by the select board. I mean, a public hearing can happen at any time. This doesn't prohibit a public hearing.
Ruth, are you more worried that the public hearing is maybe it's the first time somebody comes forward? Is that what you're worried
I
about?
am. I'm thinking that it's an avenue for people to come to our meetings, and quite a few did come to our meetings when the marijuana issues came out, and they spoke. And if it's like just a renewal, I'm not sure. If people have issues and they haven't come forth before that, I guess it's on them. But all I'm saying is a public hearing, you advertise for so many days and it gives them a place to speak. So, but I'm not really against this. I just wanted to bring that out. I want to give all the citizens a chance to speak if they want to. But you bring it forward if there's any issues anyway to a public hearing is what you're saying. Okay.
Rod, is a fair process that we currently do now, like a fair comparison similar to like a liquor license? So when someone applies for a new license, you shoot that around to basically
Right.
Lister and other folks, and they say, or public safety, and they say if they've had any issues over the past year, and if there are, then it gets brought to our attention during the relicensing piece. And so this would be similar in terms of renewals, but in terms of a new application, we'd still have the full public hearing up front. And I was
That's
just
right.
thinking, based on what Ruth and Dave have been saying in terms of hearing concerns from abutters and how sometimes that public hearing is the first opportunity, which I tend to agree with sometimes. It is. If there's a way that we could maybe put out notice, keep what you have here, Rod, and then maybe put out notice to abutters for 10 days in advance to say, this
That could
license.
still,
Go ahead.
yes, that could be part of the renewal process.
Yeah.
I mean, these are in commercial zones, not really next to residential uses. So, I mean, they're not allowed next to residential uses. So the abutter notices really aren't going out to residential properties.
Okay. Thank you,
Go ahead,
sir.
Marie. Go ahead, Marie.
If there has been changes, will they be given a period of time to rectify it before, their license is taken away or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, so if, and that will probably be an exercise with you folks when someone's not in compliance, how we deal with that. Either it's going to be revoke their license, which that would stop their business, kind of like a stop work order, and then they would probably get in compliance and reapply. I mean, that's definitely to be figured out how that would work. But if it's a change, I mean, again, the severity of the operation and the violation comes into play as well. If they're going 30 and a 25 versus 90 and a 25, then that comes into play, I suppose, when you're discussing that. And again, that, a change in operation triggers them to have a public hearing and get a new license.
Yeah, I was
Rod
gonna say,
said-
sorry,
Go
Dave, go ahead.
Go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, follow up on what Rod just said. I mean, if they're, my preference would be for them to be coming to us first before we find them in violation. So in theory, they should be coming with an amendment proposition for you if they're going to be changing any of their business operations. So, I mean, in theory, we shouldn't really be having to deal with a good, law-abiding organization in a bad way through an infraction if they're coming forward, which I have no reason to suspect any of our businesses would do that currently. Just my thoughts. Sorry, Dave, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine, because I agree. And Rod, you'd said, the speeding 5 over versus 30 over. And that's to the, beginning of my question is, I want to make sure that if it's 5 over, we hear.
Yeah.
And I don't want someone to judge 7's okay, but 10 wasn't. I just.
Absolutely. I mean, I was thinking of a what if, Dave. A what if scenario is they don't comply with the signage. And let's say it's a minor issue, but it still doesn't comply. That is put on file and that is brought up and they need to be in compliance. And the fact that they didn't comply should be brought forth. Is that kind of a?
Yeah, because I was just thinking, we are eventually going to look at this like a liquor license renewal. And I don't know, if a restaurant got hit tonight for serving to a minor, do we ever know about that? But if it happened in this case, it would probably feel like a different severity because it's so new. So I just let's just make sure we hear anything. Let's just do public hearing on it. I mean, I believe we'll continue to have good, we had good people that we put through, I think. So I think we'll continue to see that. All right. So Rod, would you want to, I agree with I like the mat and even the roof suggestion and probably with this where we'd want to notify, add another section in here that we want to notify whether abutters or even, and I know we wanted to save the costs of advertising, but maybe maybe we just simply put it out there, not sending anything to abutters, but just simply putting out there.
We could advertise that a license renewal is under review and the comment period is open for how many days?
Right. Yeah. Does that work for people? Something like that? Yeah. So if you would get something like that added to it.
Yeah.
Meeting and get it ready.
And this will, speaking of public hearings, the amendment will require a public hearing to get onto the warrant. So. With the correct notification.
So if you had it ready, we could public hear it. Would you want to do it on the 15th or the 1st? Or does it matter?
Yeah, it would have to be the 15th probably at the earliest.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, perfect.
Okay, I'll make amendments. I'll get them out and then should we plan on notifying it for a public hearing on the 15th?
Yeah, my opinion. So
actually we should, I want to get your sign off first. So
let's take this vote. I make a motion for the planner to go back and make amendments that were suggested this evening and to come back with it for us to deal with at least by April 15th for a public hearing.
Second.
That makes sense. All those, Patty, you have to do this part. You have to take this vote.
Okay, David Douglas in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Marie Brilliant,
In favor?
Ruth Lyons,
In favor.
Matt Nixon,
In favor.
4-0.
Ford,
Thank you, Patty.
By the way, sorry.
Thank you, Rod. 2123, consideration any appropriate action on proposed ordinance changes to allow electronic authorization of treasurer's warrants. I see the Assistant Town Manager, Mark Waltz up. Have at it.
Good evening, everyone. So as you know, we were asked a couple months ago to look into, see if we could make the process a little more user-friendly for everyone as far as treasurer's warrants. The statute basically says the only way to do them unless you have some ordinances is to actually do them at your regular selectmen's meetings. For years, Topsham's had an ordinance that allows it to be done. You can view them separately and sign them as long as that's done. So we went to it, we proposed some changed language that allows you to approve them electronically. We wrote it broadly enough so that it could encompass something similar to DocuSign, or if there was a way to log you into the Munis system, or it could just be done by email. So we sent it to the town attorney to make sure she approved of our language. She did, but then when she was looking at it, she found some of the older language she wanted to clean up a little. So what I sent you a couple days ago was her edits of our edits. Hers were in blue, ours were the original red ones. So what we would suggest that you would, again, have a hearing on, so it could be put on the warrant to be approved as an ordinance change, is the attorney's version. So that's the one that was sent Wednesday.
Everyone's familiar with that. So this could be, I think I read it, but I just want to make sure, this could be a combination of in-person signing and digital, right? Two of us do digital, one could do in-person and.
Yep.
Okay,
And you could even do it the old-fashioned way and do them in one of these meetings if you wanted. So you've got all these options available to you.
right. And will this will cover payroll?
Yes.
Okay, so we can't do that at this meeting. Any questions of Mark or comments?
I just have one question. So we go over when we go in to sign the warrant, we go over it. So that's quite a thick document.
Right.
So would that be where one goes in and reviews it and the others sign it, or how would that work?
No, I think the way we're gonna have to set it up is gonna be, maybe we would use something like DocuSign. So what you can do is you'd get the whole thick packet. You can thumb through the pages if you want, and then you'd sign your name at the end.
Right.
Or because, yeah, we'd probably do it that. I mean, I guess theoretically we could put on the website. I don't think we want to necessarily do that part. So there's different ways we could do it, but we obviously are going to set it up in a way that you're not going to be signing something without reading it. So
right, we've got to review it.
Or you're going to read it electronically, but you'll get a chance to read it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I guess we could attach a PDF to an email to you too, is another way.
Yeah, you can always just scan it and PDF it to everybody. That'd be pretty
do it
easy.
that way too.
One full document. So with some of the smaller receipts, you might run into issues getting those through the copy machine. I think that would be the one small issue there, but
That's a lot of scanning. I mean, some of those packets are 3 and 4 inches thick.
Mhm.
well, if you stick them in the feeder though, you can basically like program in your email address and it'll just like create one PDF out of all the
Right.
receipts, as long as the receipts don't get jammed up, which is why
Right.
I'm talking about those little guys. And there
With,
are quite a few of those.
with Munis now, Brandy's actually scanning in all our invoices anyway, and they're stored electronically. So there may be an easier way for her to compile that package too. So
Okay.
we've got a couple months to work that out while this all gets passed.
Anything further? Seeing nothing. So now, Mark, you usually write up the exact words I should read for these things, and you didn't do it.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, you're right. I didn't on this one. I'm sorry.
No, I took note. I will make a motion that we forward the proposed ordinance changes to allow electronic signatures to the April 15th public hearing for 2021's town meeting, for consideration of 2021's town meeting.
Second.
All
Second.
those, yep. Patty, go ahead.
David Douglas,
I'm in favor.
Marie Brilliant,
In favor?
Bruce Lyons. Bruce
In
Lyons.
favor.
Matt Nixon,
In favor.
4-0.
Thank you, Patty. All of
No
them.
ties.
So I will make a motion that we enter executive session for the following 3 items. 21-24, enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405-6C to discuss acquisition of real property for economic development. 21-25, enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405-6D to discuss labor negotiations. 21-26, enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405-6C to discuss the disposition of publicly owned real property. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second,
Oh, it was a race for the button. I was watching it go live.
see,
So motioned and seconded to enter into executive session for 21-24 to 21-26. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Patty. We will see you in a couple weeks.